ghosts and ghouls, welcome to the Terrible Toy Chest. I'm Taylor Terrible, and I'm going to tear your soul apart. We're doing a Hellraiser retrospective today of all 9 films in the series. I am probably one of the biggest fans in the whole world. You probably even know that I have a tattoo on the back of my neck dedicated to Hellraiser. The first film is the only one that's written and directed by Clive Barker, who, of course, wrote The Hellbound Heart, which is the story that Hellraiser is based on. The story basically starts out with Kirsty and her family moving into their new house. Her stepmom, Julia, the biggest bitch in the history of the universe, is living with them. As they're moving furniture, of course, Kirsty's dad cuts his hand. His blood drips onto the floor, which then summons his dead brother, Frank. Wow. Frank is basically resurrected after Julia feeds him all of these dead corpses of men that she seduces at the bar. And the Cenobites come to reclaim Frank's soul, which is where we get to meet Pinhead and Deep Throat and Butterball and Chatterer. Their job is to drag you to hell and put you through all of this pain and suffering. What I love about the Cenobites more than any other horror villain, you can pretty much bargain with them.
Supposing he had escaped us, what has that to do with you?
I can lead you to hell, and you can take him back instead of me.
Perhaps we prefer you.
I want to hear him confess himself. Then, maybe.
But if you hate us,
We'll tear your soul apart.
Pinhead is the biggest badass. There's no one else for this role but Doug Bradley. I will get into that later. It's by far one of the top 2 films in the entire series. So Hellraiser 2 takes place after the events of Hellraiser 1. This one's called Hellbound. It's probably the one that you've seen on TV around Halloween time, or this is the one that you've been shown by your friends because it's one of the biggest ones in the series. Kirsty ends up in the world of the Cenobites after she gets a message on the wall in the hospital saying that her father's in hell. So the Cenobites open up the portal to hell, trying to drag a soul down there. She's like, cool, let me just take this opportunity to see if I can find my dad. Hellraiser 2 is by far one of the coolest ones in the series. The graphics and the music are so fun and classic, and you get a bunch of really fun lines out of that one.
So eager to play, so reluctant to admit it.
perhaps you're teasing us. Are you teasing us?
I've come for my father!
But please, feel free, explore. We have eternity to know your flesh.
So let's talk Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. This one's kind of fun, but kind of cheesy. Basically, there's a journalist named Joey who starts learning about the puzzle box and the Cenobites. A club owner who has just recently purchased a pillar with Pinhead's face in it to keep in his bedroom. Hellraiser 3 is essentially a pillar of Pinhead eating girls that this guy brings back to his apartment. And then, eventually, he's released because he's eaten enough souls. It's Pinhead and the rest of the Cenobites on Earth. It's literally hell on Earth. And they're just killing people. It's entertaining, so I do suggest watching this one, because it is the 3rd in the series. Hellraiser 4, Bloodline is basically the beginning and the end of Pinhead. It's the origin story of the puzzle box and how the Cenobites came to be, and it's also supposed to be the story of how Pinhead dies. Pinhead's in space, being distracted by holograms.
Then it won't hurt you to die, will it?
I cannot die. I am forever.
It is bad. Well, they want us to hear the story of where the puzzle box came from, so it flashes all the way back. The makers of the box ended up sacrificing a prostitute to make it what it is, to make it kind of like mystical, where you could open a portal to hell. Of the family that created the puzzle box basically cornered Pinhead in space and is like, I'm ending this once and for all. Watch this movie if you want to know where the puzzle box came from, and if you want to watch a lot of people die and you want to see a Cenobite with no clothes on. Done. Let's talk about Hellraiser 5, Inferno. What is this movie? I don't understand. A detective who thinks it's this really bright idea to find the puzzle box at a crime scene that he goes to, and he takes it home and solves it, which, you know, would presumably summon the Cenobites because that's what happens in every other movie, but, you know, this time I guess it's different because it turns out that this detective is going to his psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist is actually Pinhead disguised as a psychiatrist. This movie sucks. Hellraiser 6, Hellseeker, tells the story of Mayhem from the Allstate commercials trying to murder his wife. He gets into a car accident and his wife goes missing at the scene. His wife just happens to be Kirsty Cotton from the original Hellraiser. Yay, Ashley Lawrence is back. He wakes up with no recollection of the accident at all, and they're trying to explain to him that he's the #1 suspect in the fact that, you know, his wife is missing. But it turns out that he tried to gift her the puzzle box to kill her off, but she already knew the story of the Cenobites because, you know, you've seen the first and second movies. So she ends up reasoning with the Cenobites again, and he ends up taking Mayhem instead. It's not the most important in the series, but I do think it's kind of necessary to watch it because it's cool to see Kirsty come back, and it's nice to see her interacting with Pinhead before he wants to rip her face off. Hellraiser 7, Deader, is one of the dumbest films in the entire series. This one tells the story of a journalist named Amy who travels overseas. She goes to get this story about a cult that are brutally murdering themselves. They're basically committing suicide for the sake of, it's like a religious cult, but they worship the Cenobites. Their ultimate goal is to summon them. So she goes over there, and it turns out that she's like, maybe I kind of feel the same way. Maybe I should help them. Maybe I'm a moron. That's really all I have to say about that one. It is awful. You could so easily skip this one. It means nothing to the series, and it's dumb as hell. So Hellraiser 8, Hellworld, is surprisingly good for a movie that probably should have been really bad. It's the story of a guy who invites the players of Hellworld to his house for a party. Hellworld is a video game based on the Hellraiser film series. This film is Hellraiser inside Hellraiser. So there was a kid who played Hellworld, his name was Adam, and the game ended up killing him. So the guy throwing the party at this mansion is actually Adam's father, who hates these kids, and he blames them for the death of his son.
I should have come a long time ago.
Hellraiser. There's no Hellworld. It doesn't exist.
Your son was quite the prodigy. He opened the gateway to hell.
What's really fun about this movie is the way some of the kids die. They're basically running around the house trying to escape. And my favorite death scene is probably where a kid gets strung up by a butcher's hook. There's a big twist at the end. It only slightly makes sense, but it's worth watching. This is actually probably one of my favorites in the series. I'm gonna get a lot of crap for it. People are gonna be mad at me, but I really don't care because it's a fun movie. Are you guys ready to talk about Hellraiser 9 Revelations? I don't think you are. I'm not either, because it's the biggest disappointment to ever come into my life in the history of everything. Okay. Revelations starts out as the usual cheesy found footage film. These kids find the box and they die. To be honest, I blocked this film out of my memory entirely. All I can tell you is Doug Bradley is not Pinhead anymore. Pinhead is there, and he's not Pinhead. Just don't watch. It's literally a joke. This film is a joke. I have no good things to say about it. It is clearly low budget. The acting is so bottom of the barrel, disappointing, dumb. I don't know where these people came from.
I don't really get it. You guys never talk about Steven and Nico.
Emma, please.
What, please forget that I had a brother? Please forget that my boyfriend disappeared with him?
I hate everything. I wish they didn't end the series this way. It's so bad. I want to die. As a whole, the Hellraiser series is really fun. There's nothing cooler than the Cenobites in all of horror. That's why this is my favorite series, no matter how cheesy the films get. So thank you for sticking through this Hellraiser retrospective with me. So leave it right down there what series you want to hear me talk about. And until next time, stay spooky.